All right, peace and blessings, and welcome to another episode of YB's Collaboration Corner in conjunction with Self-Publishing 30 Days podcast. I am your host, Rob YB Youngblood. I serve as the president of sales for Self-Publishing 30 Days, the #1 self-publishing company in the world. And I am excited to be here with my guy, Victor K. Bartley, because I got to make sure I put that K out there. There's a bunch of Bartleys out there. But Victor K. Bartley, man, Victor and I, we've had the opportunity to work together. He's one of my clients, man, and I'm just seeing him on the rise, man. He's got a lot of great things going on. He's the igniter or the reigniter. I'll have him tell you a little bit about that and what that's all about. But hey, so glad to have you on the YB's Collaboration Corner, Victor. How you doing today, brother?
Hey, YB, man, it's great to be here. Thank you again for having me to share in this space with you again. And when the invitation came, I couldn't help but say yes. Just the way that you've poured into me and into the work that I've done. I'm deeply grateful, man. And so glad to be here. So glad to be here.
It's only right, man. You know what I'm saying? That if you think about the purpose of this podcast and focusing on collaboration and how, you know, collaboration is all about relationships, right? It's all about making the right connections and putting individuals in a position to win. And so talk a little bit about yourself. Like, tell us who you are, tell us what you do, tell us why you do what you do, all that stuff. You know, yeah. Talk about the five most important questions that your LinkedIn profile has to answer. Let's cover that real quick, man. Let the people know about yourself.
Sure. I am at heart a teacher, a full-blood teacher. It is what is in my bones. It's just what comes out whenever I interact. And sometimes I have to be aware of it because everybody doesn't want to be taught, but it's in my heart. And I absolutely love it. But what I do by profession, I am a pastor. Have been so for the past decade.
Okay.
And in addition to that, I am also a consultant in what I classify as the soul care work. I do that from the religious perspective, but just also from the personal perspective in the consulting realm,
right.
Particularly around the area of burnout. And so what I do is I reignite leaders to stamp out, to eliminate, and to bounce back from burnout.
That's awesome, man. So how did you get to the point where this became your lane? Like, you know, because we know a bunch of people that's burning out, man. But how is it that that came to a point where you entered into that space? How did that come about?
Yeah, so my own journey, and just simply put, it's my own journey. And you know, about 5-6 years ago, I went through an experience of burnout. That lasted a couple of years, in part because I didn't know what it was.
Right.
And so I just thought it was, you know, the location that I was particularly serving in, the toxic dynamics and challenging dynamics around the environment that I was in, pastoring in. And so I was like, if I just get moved, or if I switch or change locations, then that will satisfy and resolve it. And it did not. Right. Obviously, it removed me from the immediate, what I was immediately aware of, but there were some deeper things that I needed to address that I was not aware of. There were other mental challenges that I was experiencing, mental health challenges that I was experiencing, particularly what I thought to be depression. And so I went into a therapist, I sat down with them, they gave me their assessment, and my levels and scores were normal. And so I was like, you know, something has got to be wrong. Like, something is going on. I don't feel myself. You know, my energy is depleted, cynic, you know, just the typical things that I now know and teach about as burnout. But for me at the time, I was just guessing. I was guessing and masking. And so it was just out of that experience and coming out, and now on the side of recovery, not recovery, but prevention. I am wanting to help and empower others to recover, to come out of the hiding, to come out from covering up with masks, to actually recover and to live a life of preventing it from surfacing again, and tools to combat it when they begin to see evidence and their radar senses that it's on the rise.
Yeah, I think that's tremendous, man. You know, it's such a need, especially in ministry, man. You've got so many
Absolutely.
people who, you know, that are relying on the ministers, you know, weighing on the ministers. You got to lead the congregation, man. And so we've actually seen, you know, ministry leaders taking their own lives, man, because they feel like they don't have anyone to go to. And it sounds to me like you're the person that, based on your experience, you're helping people to navigate their personal experience and have an outlet to be able to get not only to release what they're dealing with, but to get that fire back. Is that accurate?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it ultimately comes to a really, in simple terms, comes to a focus of life alignment.
Okay.
You know, being clear on who you are and what you do.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I like to say is that, you know, I must be centered in who I am, confident about what I do, and clear about the difference.
Come
on. And so I am one that really addresses this whole topic from a term that's, I guess, a new term that's given to an old concept called biomimicry, where essentially we look at what nature does and copy what nature does to solve human problems. And so, you know, the heartbeat of my framework and training and teaching is centered around what happens in nature when a wildfire happens, particularly in the ecological systems and infrastructure, and watching essentially how nature bounces back and what are the stages and processes that nature goes through in order to recover from the devastation and ruin that the fire caused.
Man, that's amazing. You know, as I'm hearing you speak and I'm seeing in my mind, I'm thinking about the villages in like Africa where they will intentionally set their crops or set their land ablaze because of the impact that it'll have on the land later. It actually makes it a lot more rich, right? It enriches. So while the fire has created some damage, it chars the land, it actually replenishes the land as well. Let's talk a little bit about this whole concept of collaboration, right? So obviously we're dealing with collaboration and how it creates currency. Talk a little bit about how collaboration has affected you in terms of your work, both in the ministry realm and then as a you know, as an entrepreneur. Like let's talk about that. How has collaboration helped you in your journey?
Sure, no, absolutely. Collaboration has been the source of creating community. Everyone that you connect with is really an opportunity for collaboration. And one of the things that I've learned is that not every connection is necessarily going to be a client per se.
Right.
But in the space of being concerned about people's well-being, sometimes the people you connect with are going to connect you maybe with your potential client.
Yeah.
But they just may be somebody that's for your community, someone that you can rely on as an expert, that you can consult with. And so just really kind of identifying the gamut of and various roles that people within your collaboration sphere can hold, and not trying to fit everybody that you connect with into one grouping. So
yeah, absolutely. You know, you've heard me say this before, Victor, but we talk about the difference between doers and doorways, right? So we got doers and doorways, and even we have some closed doors, right? So we have some people that they just don't want to do anything with us or for us. But there are people who are willing to open up the door. Those are the doorways. Absolutely. And then we got some people that's willing to do work with us based on what we have to offer. Talk a little bit about how specifically how collaboration has helped you? Like, is there a specific time or specific situation or person that has helped you to reach a certain level as a result of collaborating with them?
Yeah, so obviously, two of the coaches that I've had personally pour into me is obviously a form of collaboration. Is Pierre Quinn,
Mhm.
and then you also, and particularly leveling up on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
And it's through LinkedIn that others have become more aware of what I do, have reached out to me. They've seen some posts, they've inboxed me inquiring about various things um, that I've been able to connect them to. And some have turned into clients, some have become a part of a community
Mhm.
um, of those that I collaborate with. And just from a connectedness standpoint, and helping to build, um, helping to maintain and strengthen my well-being.
Mhm.
And so those various things have really happened through LinkedIn. I've
Right.
used LinkedIn primarily as a source. Again, obviously, I've also done some personal reaching out to different organizations
Mhm.
and institutions to build relationship through emails and phone conversations. And so those initial conversations, as it relates to outside of the LinkedIn sphere, keeping things simple,
Yeah.
keeping things, being honest, and being authentic. I think in just both spheres, both whether on LinkedIn or an email and phone conversation, authenticity is the currency that will never give way, that will never be a passing fad. And it's something that will be always appreciated. I think just an eternal a trait that will always be appreciated in the realm of of people.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So talk a little bit about who do you look to collaborate with? Obviously, as you continue to grow and build your brand, build your business, who specifically, say, for example, we had some folks that are listening to this podcast, watching this podcast on YouTube
Yes.
or wherever we posted. Uh, who are you looking to attract as a collaboration? Who do you want to attract or who do you want to work with?
Sure. So I would say leaders in general, but those that I have worked with in the recent, specifically pastors that are on sabbaticals or in need, since the need for sabbatical. Um, one of the things that can plague pastors is one, just taking a break,
Yeah.
right? There's a whole psychology, a spiritual psychology of why taking a break can be challenging for pastors.
Mhm.
But one of the things that I encourage pastors not to do is to just take a break with no strategy for the time of rest.
Right.
And so one of the things that I come alongside pastors, particularly those that have the time of sabbatical, or if you aren't a sabbatical and you just want to do this alongside your work, walking them through addressing what it is that is causing the burnout that they can't tell anybody else about,
Yeah.
that they haven't been able to really address, put their finger on, and overcome. And so I work with pastors. I'm also working with hospital administrators
Mhm.
and leaders and helping them to address. Obviously, we know that in the pandemic, I was just speaking with one and they were sharing how last year healthcare workers and admin were heroes in the society where they were getting pizzas and foods and various things were being paid for and those opportunities were there. And like now that this pandemic is continuing, those same benefits that were being offered in 2020 are not there now. And so
Yeah.
while the benefits were there to help curb maybe some of the reality of burnout that many were dealing with,
Yeah.
they're now still dealing with some of the same realities that were present in 2020, but don't have that same support that was being offered. And so, addressing burnout and finding creative ways to bounce back from it and navigate it are things that hospital administrators are challenged by. I also work with emerging leaders that are in between careers,
Okay.
that are looking to clarify where their particular niche is, and empowering them to launch courageously into the realm that they've been created for.
Yeah.
They've been purposed to do. And so a lot of the pressures, the psychological mindsets, and the emotional handicap that people are plagued by can be related to a lack of clarity around life, what they are to do in their life. And so, yeah, I would say those are the three groups that I've specifically worked with in the recent, but just leaders and organizations. I've worked with churches as well, church leadership teams, in addressing, especially, and this with church, that because who we are comes to church, things can be blamed on church that may be just a personal thing that has been unaddressed.
Yeah.
And so learning to leverage that through the community, and building one another up is something that I've also trained on and emphasized as well. So organizations, nonprofit organizations, the reality of group dynamics are the same. Obviously, different terminology, different industries, but people are people.
Yeah.
People are people. So
absolutely. Absolutely. So as we begin to land the plane, obviously there's people that you want to work with, but what if somebody wants to work with you? How can they find you? How can they connect with you? What are some of the things that you welcome from people? Because, obviously there's things that you want to accomplish, but then there's things that you might need help with. So if somebody wanted to connect with you, Victor, what's the best way for them to get with you?
Yeah, the best way to get with me is through my website, victorspeakslife.org. You can make a request and connect with me there. Also can find me on LinkedIn. You just look up Victor Bartley, and also on my page, there's the business Victor Speaks Life page that is available in my bio and profile that you can also connect to for me. So those are the best ways to reach me. You can also, if you're an Instagrammer, you can find me at Victor Circle, and you can connect with me there as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So we're about to land this plane, but there's one question I always ask my guests, and we're affiliated with Self-Publishing 30 Days, so guys, it's got to be book related, right? So if you had any place in the world to go and write your next best-selling book, right? Any place in the world, if Darren M. Palmer, if he was paying for it, where would you travel to write your best-selling book, and why?
Man, where would I travel? I'd want to go back. I'd want to go back and tour parts of the motherland. I've been to South Africa, and I've been exposed there. Been also to Ethiopia. Stopped there for a couple of days, and being that most African descendants that are here in the U.S. Believed to have come from the western part of Africa, I would definitely love to be there in the Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire area. Just to become connected with my origins. From a communal perspective, man. And it's a different pace of life. It's a different pace of life in the East that I think we can learn from here, and that are bombarded by the Western world. And so, man, I would say just Western Africa.
Okay, good, man. I like that, man. I had a brother on here, Ryan Bell. You might remember Ryan Bell. He said all of Africa. He just said Africa. Just drop me anywhere.
Man, it's
Yeah.
so many different
You know what I'm
countries,
saying?
right?
Yeah, I mean,
It's a
put that
it's
man
a
in the
whole world,
jungle, put
man.
that man in the desert. He said, just drop me anywhere in the continent, man. I'm gonna be all right, man. Well, listen, we had the pleasure of listening to Victor K.
Yeah.
Bartley. He is the reigniter. Catch him on the social media platforms that he recommended. Definitely connect with him through LinkedIn, Instagram, and his website. This is another episode of Collaboration, YB's Collaboration Corner with your host, myself, Rob YB Youngblood, president of sales of Self-Publishing 30 Days, where our focus is on helping you to realize that this is the year for your new book. Remember, be encouraged, be blessed. Most of all, keep the faith and share the faith. And the way that you do that is by walking in your gift, because your gift will make room for you. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Peace.